Hello, 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 hello. We're going to pin the title Lingering in a Past Season Because of the Fear of Process. We have an amazing guest, Andra, who's going to be with us today. So, hi. Hello, everyone. Hi, hi, hi. How are you guys doing? I'm so excited for this. Right before this, I was praying. I was like, Lord, this is new territory. So help me. But as you guys are coming in, please drop your name and where you are tuning in from. And for those who don't know me, my name is Vivian Okafor. I'm a brand builder, content strategist, an avid storyteller, and I basically help new entrepreneurs to build their brands, but also seasoned entrepreneurs to hey girl, to position their brands using the power of storytelling. So hello, hello. I am excited. I think I just saw Andra come up, and so I'm gonna have her come in. We're gonna get started. I'll give you all the backstory, all the great stuff. And so let me see if she's here. Yes. Hold on. Accept. Okay. Okay. For a second, hi. For a second, it wasn't working. I was like, "What do you mean?" I was
I
like,
know
"Mm-mm.
Instagram is
No, no, no,
always like
not
going
today."
through the motion every time. It's like when I'm about to do a live, they're just like, no, no,
Yes.
right?
Not right now. Not right now. But no, I'm so excited. I was just about to tell people like how this came up. I think Andra posted one of her obviously amazing posts, and I believe it was about elevation. And I think you had asked like, what was keeping you from your next level? And it was such a random comment that I made, but I was like, yeah, you know what? I was lingering in my past season because of the fear of process. And Andra was like, yo, that's a bum topic. I was like, you know what? It actually
It
is.
is. I when you said that,
So
I was like, oh my
it
gosh, like
is.
because I feel like that sums up a lot of our journey, like trying to just like go to the next level, but it's like, oh, I don't want to go through that process of like,
Yes.
reaching there. So yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so I'm so excited for us to talk about it. First of all, I'm going to introduce Andrea, and I have a whole bio. So if you see me looking to the left, it's because I'm looking at my laptop and I want to get it right. Okay, I'm trying to get it right. I need to do this woman justice. And so Andrea Williams is a business coach, SEO marketer, and a Holy Spirit led business mentor. I was like, that's very fancy. I like that a lot. To thousands of women who follow her work online, Andrea's mission is to teach other Christian entrepreneurs how to build a Holy Spirit led business model that starts with Jesus and ends with Jesus, right? Starts and ends with him. Because how many times do we start with
Yeah.
Jesus but we don't end with
Yeah.
him? But that's a story for another day. Um, she is wildly obsessed with helping women tap into their spiritual gift to bring forth their business irresistible factor and other ways to monetize their budding business. She strives daily through her social media presence to teach biblical applications. And I actually have a story for y'all about that in the industry through her successful online coaching programs, courses, and free resources. Combining her love for helping other women in business, she also leads a successful blogging business with over 150,000 yearly blog views. Her unique approach to blogging has allowed her prestigious media, speaking engagements, and more. Audra is paving the way for other Christian businesswomen to build a six-figure business without losing their core values. I love everything you stand for. I don't remember when I found you, but I was like, yo, she's the real deal. I was like, I really
Oh
like
my
her.
God, I'm
I
crying
really
because
like
when
her.
that's the same thing how I felt when I ran into your profile. I was like, wow, like literally, like when you say storyteller, like that doesn't even do it justice. I'm like, this is gifted with her words, okay? Like gifted. It's so beautiful. Like whenever I read like your post and then when you have like an audio clip to it, I'm like, wow, literally speechless. So it's such an honor to be able to like be on your
Thank
your
you.
platform on your page. So I'm just truly honored to be here today.
And thank you for saying yes. And I kept telling her, I was like, thank you for saying yes. But honestly, I wanted, gosh, because I feel like this topic, and God is so good because I had a Bible study last night and we were talking about Moses and Moses' fear in the beginning of, right, trying to lead, when God called him to lead the Israelites. And this morning I was like, okay, prepping for this. And I was just like, hold up.
I was like, okay, God, cool. Look at you, doing all the things. But I'm super grateful. But I wanted to, before starting this, right? And for anybody who's not been on my lives before, for anyone that has not experienced like me going live with people and collaborating, I do an interview style live. So I ask those who I bring on questions, and the key is for them to share their story. But the truth is, we're not going to quench, like, I'm not just going to read off and just like only follow my questions. There might be something that comes up in the course of the conversation that I would pull out of them. And I love doing this.
Yeah.
And so I warned Andrea, I was like, I know I sent you questions beforehand, but if you say something, I'm a pull it and I'll ask you questions.
Yeah.
It's just it's a
And
storytelling
I
thing.
love
I
that. I
like to
sent a
always add
message. I
more.
was like, girl, I can go off on a tangent. You're probably like, okay, Andre, you need to bring it back. And I'm like, oh yeah, where was I at?
Yes, yes. No, but I'm really excited because this, I feel like you said, this topic, lingering in a past season because of the fear of process, is not something that we talk about, right? I don't think we admit to the fact that it's fear, and a fear is a very large bucket that can, you know, really dump into a lot of things. But I do want to, before even asking under her first question, is everyone is in different seasons, and this is actually something I had to learn, and you guys don't know, I've been in the past year kind of surrendering my business to the Lord. Everyone is in different seasons, and from what I've learned, again, taking insight from the Israelites, right, again, it's that you're either going to be going from captivity to a wilderness, from the wilderness to the promised land, from the promised land to elevation, right? And so everyone is in different seasons, and I just wanted to start there because I know when I was in my season of surrender, basically going from captivity to a wilderness, I would hear people say, well, we're in a new season. And they would, hype up like, God said to go. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but I think God is telling me to stay, like, and so there's that confusion in what season am I in, what season are they in. And so I wanted to start that because when we say season, I think it's one of those buzzwords we use in the Christian space, that we don't actually take our time to break down for people who don't understand. And that was something that I had to understand. But anyway, based on this topic, Andra, what does this topic mean to you? What does it mean for you to be
Mhm.
lingering in a past season because of fear of
I
process?
think that it
What
means
does it
for
mean?
me just stepping out of the ease and flow of what a previous season represented. For me, what's like, and I like to think of this example. I did a story on this about Elijah when he had, he was in this season where the Lord answered him by fire, and he sacrificed. The fire came down, burned up the sacrifice, and then also the ravens and the brook was bringing him like water, bringing him food, and it was just like this ease and flow that you have within the previous season. You're in a season and the Lord is really like doing amazing things, and you don't want to get out of that space because it's like, if your story is like mine, it has taken you so long to get to this space of ease and flow. And then all of a sudden it's like God is like, okay, I'm calling you higher, and you're like, wait, okay, God, things just got comfortable over here. What do you mean that you kind of want me to leave? Like, no. And so that was the thing for me, is like I wanted to stay in the previous season because I just got to a space in my life where things were going good, things were at ease, things were coming to me. I was making money without having to really do much. I wasn't even like promoting a program that I had around that time, and it was always filled, like opportunities, everything just was like
Yeah.
just all in my face. And I was so exhausted from the previous seasons. And then when I got in this season and everything just shifted for me, I was like, I don't want to get out of this. Like, this is awesome. I don't want to go back.
Yes, yes. And I think it's funny that you say that because even when you brought up, and again, this is, forgive me, y'all, but like when she said something, I have to pick it. But so it's funny that you said that because when you were talking about that story of Elijah at the brook, and God was like, okay, cool, like there's more for you to do. That was actually the live I came on a few months ago when I was like, it was almost like Holy Spirit was like, ding, ding, ding. This is what I'm calling you to do. Because anybody who knows my background, I started entrepreneurship randomly. Did not. I fell into this. I always tell people. So I don't have any experience in entrepreneurship. Yes, my mom has a business, but honestly, all of it was divinely connected by God. But when I would say, if I'm being completely honest, my roots and my foundation were very worldly. A lot of the advice that I was giving was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
self-help based, self-help books. And there was always a tug. So it didn't matter how many self-help books I read, it didn't matter how many personal development books I read, how many quotes on social media that I read, and I was like, okay, Mike, this is great.
Yeah.
And let me use that to teach other people. And we'll hype, hype, hype for like 5 seconds. And then before you know
Yeah.
it, I'm like, it didn't
Yeah.
really do anything to my heart. Right. Until honestly, literally last year, God was calling me out of my 9 to 5 into full-time entrepreneurship. So that for
Yeah.
me was that season, and everything was going well. Everything was going well in the business and 9 to 5. 9 to 5 was getting shaky, and that's how I knew God was pushing me out. But everything was going so well in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But when I hopped out, God was like, now it's time. Like it's like now it's time. Basically that was me leaving my captivity into my like my wilderness season. Like now it's time for you to rest in me. I didn't understand what he meant by rest. And so hearing you say that because of that fear of process, so for you was like you had been doing this, right? You have years, right? Like
Yes.
you have years of experience in this thing, and God was calling you, okay, Andre, look, I know you're
Yeah.
chilling, but I need you to step a little bit higher. So I just want you guys to see how it, we're having this conversation. We have similar experiences, but so like different seasons that we were in, where we were very afraid of God calling us into a new season. But one of the things I want to ask you, right, is like, what did that process look like, and what did that process of like, because again, when we're in between
Yeah.
seasons, when we're in that space, it's like when we say season, sometimes people think it's a cool thing, it's a cute thing, but like, what did that process look like?
Yeah.
What did it
I will
teach you?
say, and this is me just being like 100% honest in this moment. I feel like it
Yes,
taught
please.
me, or it revealed to me, that how much of demonic oppression that I was in, and how bounded I was to applause, because I shared this on a live previously where
Wait. Did you
yeah.
say bounded to
So
applause?
people
Hmm.
didn't necessarily like me. So when people start liking me like now, I'm like, yo, people like me. What is this? So I was bounded to the applause. So in this previous season, I feel like I didn't move out of that because I was like romanticizing the season. I'm like, in this previous season that I was in, everyone loved me. I was like, that girl, and people, like, the Lord was like breathing upon the smallest things that that I didn't think that would pop off. He was like breathing on it. And so I was so bounded to people like celebrating me. I was bounded to people's judgment of me. I was bounded to just the persecution. And so when he was calling me out of that space, I had to go through this season of being released from, and that was the biggest lesson that I had to learn. It's like that, being released from the opinions of other people, the opinions of like whether they like you, if they don't like you, and if they like you, you do more of that. If they don't like you, you stop doing it, even if the Lord like told you to do it. And then just being free from just like just the applause, like just people saying things about me and just like only celebrating me when I do something good, but just like crucifying me if I do something bad. And I was like, I don't want to go back to that, because as we go to like from glory to glory to glory, it's like that wait period that we have to go through. And then within that wait period, it's like all hell just breaks loose, and you're like, whoa, what the heck? Let me go back, because in his previous season, you start like, and that's what the Lord breaks to me. He said we started like reminiscing, like, yo, everything was good back then. Let me go back. But the thing about Elisha, when he went back to that brook, it was a seasonal brook, so it only came once a year. So the other 3 seasons, it was like virtue as if it didn't exist. And I was like reminiscing, romanticizing it, and I was just so in bondage. Like, I was so oppressed. And a lot of Christians, they don't want to admit it that
Use the word.
if you're not demonically possessed, and you're like demonically oppressed, and that oppression is a stronghold that's keeping you from moving forward. And that was one of the things. And so God was telling me, he was like, Andra, I want for you to be released, because I want to take you from the outer courts to the holies of holies. But in order for you to do that, you need to release your ego. And that was the other thing too. I was so egotistical, like my ego, my pride, you know. I shared this in a previous live and I was like, don't no one ask me to do a sales call because look at me, you know, I made X amount of money. I have this. Why would I be on a sales call? And I realized that I was no longer a leader for people. I was no longer leading people closer to God. It was like all about me. And that was what I had to learn. And so as God was like elevating me, and I was in that season of rest, he started to reveal so much to me. And it was painful to like have all that stuff blasted in your face. And you're like, wow. Because my mom, she said something. She said, Andra, I'm gonna tell you this one thing. And she's like, and you don't have to listen to me. But my mom, she's like my she's my apostle. So she said, Andra, you need to remain humble. And I was like, what do you mean I am humble? Like I'm I said, I'm probably the most humblest person you'll probably ever meet. And she was like, oh my goodness, my God. She was like, your ministry, what you're doing is not going to go far if you don't get it together. And when I prayed and I said, Lord, search my heart. And he said, this, and this, and this. And so that was so many lessons that I had to learn within that wait period as God was elevating me and going to that next level, that I feel like if I would have shot right up there, I would have probably been the same way. Like being mean to people for no reason. And this was even me just like, you know, last year, just being mean to people, all these different things. And so that was probably one of like just me breaking the oppression from my life was probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned within that season.
Wow. Like, where do I start? Where do I start? There's so many things that you said that I related with because I was just like, yo, like, oh gosh. Moment, y'all. I just need a need a moment because funny, I did a live on not rushing your waiting period because I was in it and because one of the big things. So just, oh gosh, where do I start? Father, Lord, help me. Lord, help me. I think one of the biggest things is that people are scared of that waiting period. And one of the things that I realized and why, because I told people, I said, you can either use your waiting period as an opportunity or you can use it, right, as punishment. You can either see it as an opportunity or see it as punishment. And when you start seeing it as an opportunity to allow God to show you what's in your heart, because the truth is your heart is wicked, right? There are things that you took on from the world and from growing up that the Lord wants to get rid from you so that he can then take you to the next step. And whether that is captivity to wilderness, which was what I experienced. So for me, there was a lot of people pleasing. I went through a huge stage of seeking validation. So literally you telling me, I'm like, oh my God, you're such a great storyteller. Vivian, a year and a half ago, when I first started my business in 2020, I would have been like, oh really? I am. Like it was comforting and it did something to me and my ego to keep hearing that. The speaking gigs that came, the opportunities that came, like all the things that came in just like I was only in business for a year and change. And I was like,
right, what's going on?
People like me. The whole engagement, right? The engagement on my posts, like, the comments. I was like, okay, I must have something. And then I started to feel myself, right? I started to literally, as we would say, literally give myself the glory, right? I started to literally, it's funny because last night and this is something that the Lord taught me, because not only was he teaching me and releasing me from all those things that were oppressing me, fear, people pleasing, like manipulation, like, pride. I went through the same thing. I remember when I said I'm humble too, and Lord was like, yeah, no, you're not, honey. Like, you're actually very prideful, but you hide under I'm humble because I'm nice. But the Lord was also teaching me to hear from him. I think that's one of the things, like, I'm not new generation and Christian, but like the Lord was teaching me to hear from him. And one of the big things is that the Lord started using music to teach me, right? Dreams, like the floodgates opened when, after I had an encounter with the Lord last year in May, and what I thought was about to be a season of like, yo, we launch into the next season. I told people, I decided, I got so tired and exhausted looking at what other people were doing, comparing myself to what they were doing, trying to be better than them. So really, literally having that spirit of comparison, having that spirit of jealousy, having that spirit
Yes.
of competitiveness, having that spirit of bitterness if somebody went over me to go hire somebody else, forgetting the fact, right, that if they didn't hire me, then I wasn't for them. Then God didn't send them to me. And the people who God has sent me to, they don't need to, I don't need to
Yep.
do a lot of convincing. And that was the thing God was showing me. Whoever that is for you, you don't need to do convincing. You still got to show up and market your business. Don't get me wrong. But when
Yeah.
they come with, oh, I'm ready. And they always come with, I'm ready. And so you looking at your fellow entrepreneur or your fellow person, right, that you're supposed to be collaborating with, you end up getting into that point of competing with them, envying them, comparing yourself with them.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And
no,
that's
we
so
need to get
like
rid of
that
this.
you said that, because when I was in this stage, right, of like growing, the Lord said something to me. And when I tell you it was so like mind boggling, He was like, this competitive spirit that you have, you're competing against the people that I have sent your way for you to glean from and for you to learn from. And I was like, yo, okay. Like, cause I made everyone my competition, like, even if they weren't in the same industry as me. And my mom, she said, like I said, again, my mom, she
Yeah.
always like humbles me. And she was like, Andrea, like the world sees competition, you know, and even if you're a Christian entrepreneur and you have a little bit of this, you know, going in a entrepreneur is always considered to be like a secular space. But, you know, the world sees competition and
Yeah.
let me compete, let me outrank them, let me do X, Y, and Z. But the Lord sees community. The Lord sees like, how can we collaborate together, you know? And even when we go out there to do ministry, it's always you stay on your field, I stay on my field. But I'm like, hey, what about we bring our fields together? Okay, like I don't feel like it's this border in heaven where it's like you stay over here, I stay over here. I'm like, we have greater impact once we let down this. And we have to remember that at the end of the day, regardless of how much money she made, she's still my sister. You know, she's still my sister in Christ, and I still am rooting for her, regardless of what all this other stuff. And then once you break that down and you realize that, you know, it's not that important, then I feel like we get to another place within our business where it's like we can do things like this, where we can take our audience and put it together, and we can speak about things that's like going to help both of our fields. Like, again, taking our fields, putting them together, and it's not this two separate things. And so it's like, this competitive spirit is having you to compete with the people that I have sent your way for you to glean from you to learn from. And it's time that Jesus knows, like, just break it, because if not, you're going to see everyone as your competitor, and who will you learn from? That's what the Lord said. He was like, Andrea, who will you learn from? You know, you think that you're the best of the best, and you know, who will
Mm-hmm.
you learn from? And you need to like humble yourself. And I was just like, okay, got it. Yeah.
And who will you collaborate? And it's funny that you're saying this. I was listening to a sermon yesterday, and the person said, that your friends are your prophecy. And they were saying it in the sense of like, obviously, depending on who you keep around, whatever that's happening in your friend's life, obviously, as they're following the Lord, it's prophetic for you. And it reminded me, so I have a live coming up, I believe next week, with her timeless brand, Erica. And when we connected, that was such a divine connection from the Lord. And I remember when a mentor of mine said, her life and what's happening in her life right now is prophetic for you, because everything that you have been through, she has been through as well. And so you need to be, she's going to be a great blessing to you. And I was just like, okay, well, how? And the Lord started speaking to me and was just like, everything that she has gone through, everything that she is going through. Yes, both of you, you're going to learn from each other, you're friends. But like her trajectory in business and how she has been, she's like, that is what you need to do. Because like I said, right, coming out of a season of a lot of the information I was sharing with my people, a lot of the stories I was
Yeah.
sharing was very worldly. Like if we, if we were getting very honest with it. And so when the Lord started using the Bible, like biblical characters, to literally teach me and give me business blueprints. And the beautiful thing that he did, and I'll talk about it a little bit more. I believe it's in the live I'm doing with the season of the faith to prepare well for a new season, was he wasn't
Yeah.
dismantling what I had. And that's, again, my testimony, right? Because sometimes God will dismantle what you have to help have you rebuild, right? He was not dismantling what I have. He
Come
was
on.
resetting my foundation, right? I'll say it again. He was not dismantling what I had. He was resetting my foundation. And now what he was doing was, it was almost like as I was renewing
Yeah.
my mind in the word, He was literally getting rid of all the worldly connections that I would make with content and storytelling and marketing and all that stuff, helping them build their businesses. And now he was making connections with the Bible. And so now, instead of using some
Yeah.
random example that I saw on Netflix, I use Nehemiah, or I use Elijah, or I use Moses. And when I came on that live and you were talking about Elijah, and I forget what the topic was, all I was just enamored. I was just like God just get, yeah. God just,
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, I didn't want to,
you know,
like, I kept feeling like this urge where I was like, I don't want to talk about the Bible, right? Because I'm just like, I just feel like there's so many other approaches that I could go to get my point across that I don't want to talk about the Bible because, you know, I just didn't want to. And then the Lord was like, he just constantly just kept nagging me to, like, not nag me, but he just like kept pressing on my heart for me to break down the Bible and to show biblical applications and how the Bible is really the cornerstone to really everything in life. Like, and so once I realized that and I studied it, and I was like, okay, I feel like we have something here. Like, I feel like I can teach about the Bible and make it connect and be parallel with business. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen someone do that before. And I was like, what the heck? Like,
what was
yeah.
my first, like, I sent you a DM right after you finished that live, and I was like,
Yeah,
I don't think I've
I
ever
was
seen someone do this
sweating. I was
before.
like,
But I think this is
oh
what
my
God is
gosh,
calling
I
me
don't
to
know what people are
do.
going to say because I am talking about something. And I was literally, it took me about 2 weeks to like break down that scripture. And I was so nervous to do it because I was like, I haven't really seen anyone do this before. And I just don't want, again, being like that fear of what people will say once I start doing it. And I was just like, okay, God, just give me the strength to do it. And then, you know, and it surprisingly was probably one of the best lives that I did, but I was so nervous to do it because it was such a new territory from, like how you said, like getting away from like the self-help and all this stuff and just like, let me teach all about the Bible. Like,
Because foundationally, like, you're
yeah.
not doing business without God. They go together, and that was the thing that the Lord was teaching me. And I want to share a quick testimony for you, because seeing you and what you did on that live, because the Lord had already used Luke 4 to kind of teach me about like wilderness and process and testing to launching, right? And seeing you break down that live with biblical principles and attach it to business was what gave me the courage. I believe it was like 2 weeks after, to show up live. Now, I was terrified. Anybody that watches that live on either YouTube or Instagram, I started crying in the beginning of it because I was terrified. But the thing is, for me, I literally built my foundation of my business, or my platform, or the page, the VO guide, on transparency. And so I admitted to the fact that, look, I want to get it right. And I was on, and I started tearing up. And I was like, I want to get this right. I don't want to get it wrong. But I was just like that, and that's basically it, right? And this kind of goes into the next question, because I really could not make that up, how it just goes into the next question. But yo, this is how God works. But that whole fear of like, I don't want to get it wrong. And obviously, when I got off that live, literally the first thought was, take it down, delete it, because I cried. And I felt like throughout the whole live, I kept rambling. I kept just like, I was just all over the place. And I was just like, I literally was just going through a lot of like what I would call right now, like mental warfare. Like, take it down, take it down, take it down. And I was like, no one's going to like it. Everyone's going to laugh at you because, like, you went live and you were crying and you were talking about God. No one's going to be helpful. Just for me, literally, a client I was working with at that time, one-on-one, we were building her brand, sent me a Voxer note, and she was like, I never jump on lives, but she was like, when I saw you live, I just felt an urge to sit and stay. And she was like, that live blessed me more than you can even imagine. She was like, there's so much you said, but that live, right, that was stretching. Seeing you open something up in me to say, okay, if I saw Andre do it, I can do it too. But there was still the stretching that had to happen, in the showing up, in the fighting,
Yeah.
to not take it down. right? In the fighting, to not give in to the mental warfare of I have to take it down. And so I honestly feel like regardless, every waiting period as we go from glory to glory in a new season,
Yeah.
God is always stretching us. And so I want to know, like, if you can give us like specific examples on like how
Yeah.
God stretched you in your new season, or as you were entering, as you were departing. Like,
Well,
tell us all about it.
this story started back with a dream, and within this dream that I had, the Lord had placed me. It was more like a trance, or like a, I would say like a vision or trance. And within that, the Lord placed two sets of keys within my hand. And he said, Andra, I have given you access to the second and to the third realm. And I was like, oh wow, that's deep, because I didn't even know what that was. And within, as the Lord was telling me, and as you know, within the Bible, it's like it's three heavens. And we have the earthly heaven, which is the things that we're dealing with on the earth. Then we go to the second heaven, which is where the principalities are. Then the third is where heaven is. And so what God was showing me, he said, in order for you to be seated in heavenly places, I am literally taking you from this space on earth, is stretching you and taking you from 1 to 2 to 3. And it's like you're going up, like you're stretching to be seated at heavenly places. And so once he said, for me, like, you have the earthly bound things that a lot of us go through as he is stretching us. And so that is going through like depression and anxiety, comparison, and all those little tiny being tormented, insecurities. All those things are earthly bound things. And so when we are going from the next level, we are bypassing all of those earthly bounded spirits, earthly bounded things, and we're stepping into a whole new level where we are now entering into the second realm, which is where the principalities are. And so when God gave me the keys, he was like, unlock this second realm. And when you unlock it, literally, I was like, oh God, like, what did I just experience? And when I unlocked it, it was as if that, like, this is when all hell really broke loose, when I really unlocked it. And I was like in warfare every single day. I was in my dreams, I was doing deliverance. I was just constantly just like, it was this deep travail within my spirit. And so that was really the stretching for me. It was more of a travail, and I was in a spiritual warfare with different principalities that I wasn't exposed to. And when I was in this space and the Lord started to like take me to like different spaces, he allowed for me to see the geographical principalities that reign over certain locations. And he was like, I want for you to know their name and call them out, because where I am taking you, I'm taking you over a geographical place. And that was, to me, it was more of a spiritual warfare. The Lord was like, you have bypassed the earthly bound things. And that's what, like, a lot of people, they never get to that second and third place, because they don't allow themselves to get past the earthly bound spirits, the earthly bound like drama and loss and trauma. And we stay in this like position, and that's what the Lord, that's what the devil wants to keep us at. Like, he don't want for us to really go higher and to step into that. And so once we have got to the space where we have been trained and we are equipped to go to that second space, then it's like, okay, now God is trusting you with more. But it's a journey to get to that space. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's like he stretched me. I saw this spiritual stretching from the earth to the space to the heavens. And it was a natural stretch, and that's why it hurts so much, is because it's not only a natural stretch but a spiritual stretch, because he's taking you bypass literally so much stuff. And so that was like what I experienced, is like a full-blown, I'm in like warfare mode.
Yeah. It's funny that when you said that, because when I always see the comment, new levels, new devils, I don't think we actually break down like spiritually what that means, right? And so obviously explain to us, right? So how does someone get past the whole, comparison, the competitive spirit, so all the things that are really kind of keeping them bound? Because to be completely honest, when I first started my journey with the Lord, my mind just wanted things physically. Like if I was asking, okay, Lord, money in my bank account, did it, until there was a day when he did a complete reset. Honestly, no pun intended. That's really the season I was in. And it literally felt like God reset my heart. And he was just like, everything that will ever be given to you is given to your spirit first
Yeah.
before it manifests physically. And so if you're not connected to your spirit first, you're not going to see the manifestation of it. Like, where do you think your faith, like, where do you think your faith is?
Yeah.
Like, your faith is in your spirit. Like, you do all of that in your spirit, and then that is what gives you the strength, the capacity. But I think, honestly, when you grow up in the world, or, I mean, I grew up in church, but I honestly grow up in the church and I've been understanding the function of the Holy Spirit. Like, I didn't, right? And so when you grow up in that kind of environment where you're not fully you're not fully understanding of what it truly
Yeah.
means to be spirit led, walking in the spirit, receiving things by the spirit, and then having it manifest in the physical. It's almost like you keep
Yeah.
you keep doing all these things, right? Like, you keep kind of fighting against, like, the jealousy and the comparison, not realizing at the back of it, it's like, actually, why is this coming up? Like, we're not allowing ourselves to actually ask ourselves questions.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we've gotten comfortable
Yeah.
on how things have been. We've gotten comfortable with, oh, well, I'm always
Yeah.
afraid, or oh, I'm always jealous, or oh, I always compare. That's actually who I always have been. And so maybe the Lord is just bringing it up right now. Yeah, yeah, He's gonna take it up. It's like, no, it's like, but I hope not. But the whole point I'm trying to make first is, like, when I went on this season was I was always asking for things physically until literally the Lord gave me a dream. And in the dream, I was I was in the gym. And I love how the Lord speaks to people. But in the dream I was in the gym, and I saw who was my then formal personal trainer walk by, but he
Yeah.
walked by so frantically. He was like just walking, throwing things everywhere. Then he went to like a pull-up machine and was like pulling stuff up, and his clothing was like all over the place. And literally in the gym, I was when he was walking by, I'd asked him, I was like, hey, can you
Yeah.
help me figure this out? Because I was at a machine. And he literally like ignored me and went. It was just like, again, it looked, in my mind, I remember in the dream, I was like, this looks like a little tragic for
Right.
somebody who's supposed to be my personal trainer, right? And then literally, like, I heard the Lord was just like, get to
Yeah.
the machine, you know what to do. In the machine, I sit down, and anybody that knows the machine, I forget what it's called, but it's a seated row. Anyone has ever done a seated row in the gym? So I was doing a seated row, and in the dream, it was almost like I was
Mhm.
in there, but I was looking at my back, and I could feel my back
Yeah.
muscles basically form. And basically, what the Lord was trying to tell me was like, look, everything, like, He was like, I'm strengthening your spirit. I'm strengthening your back muscles. And so obviously, in my fleshy stuff, I wake up and I'm like, oh, what's the Lord trying to strengthen physically? So I'm
Right.
looking at it like, oh, should I go to the gym? And so obviously I went to my mentor, and she was like, the Lord is strengthening you spiritually. I was like, oh. And so obviously when I then obviously surrendered and grew in my way content in the season of waiting, and I was like, Lord, what do you want to teach me? I want to learn everything you want to teach me.
Yeah.
That was when everything made sense. That was when I understood everything to be in the spirit first before physically, right? And so to not go on too far, and I love the fact that you talked about kind of being stretched beyond that level. It's like practically, what does the stretching look like? Like, what did you do, if you can share, right? What are some practical things for people who are like, okay, well, I think I'm in a stretching season, I think I'm in a waiting season, or God is taking me into a waiting period, or God is taking me outside of a waiting period into a new season. Like, what are some things in that stretching that we are going, whether into a waiting or out of a waiting? What are some practical things that people can actually do, right, to be able to make sure that it, they're doing the season
Yeah.
right. They're doing it justice,
I
right?
would definitely say, and I'm trying not to be like, because I feel like I can go like real spiritual with this, but I think waiting it out, like that's the most thing, is to wait it out. Because when we looked at Elijah, when he was going through all this stuff and he went into that hiding, and when the Lord called him out of that hiding, it was three things that took place. It was a windstorm, it was an earthquake, it was fire, rocks were coming down. And after all of those things happened to him, then he heard a small voice, and within that voice he gave him strategy and told him to do X, Y, and Z, to do, to anoint Elisha, and to do X, Y, and Z. And so it's kind of like, are you willing to wait it out? Because we all know that the process is going to be long, and well, not long, maybe just however the period is for your life. But are you willing to wait it out? If you're on top of this space.
How do we wait it
I
out?
would
I want you to
say,
go spiritual.
okay, how do we wait it out? I would say just stay plugged into the Lord. Allow for it to be like a deep surrender, releasing of things that is really like hindering you from going forward. So like how we said, like releasing that jealousy and that insecurity, and creating a sensitive heart for the Lord, for him to search your heart and for him to clear the things that is limiting you from going forward. And so it's like how my friend Abargo, she always be like, deep surrender, like deep surrender, let me go. Don't allow for yourself to get so like caught up in different things. But I just think I can't really describe it. It's more so wait it out, deep surrender, release. And to not feel as if like everything has to make sense. Like not feeling as if like everything has to be like, you know, step one, step two, step three, because I feel like once we do that, we give our power away to this step. And then if it's not like that, we're like, God is not with me. God didn't call me to do this. But it's like release everything that you think that you know about how God is going to move, and just step into a deep surrender and just release it, you know, like release how you feel like elevation is supposed to look. Because that was one of the things, is like I feel like I was like elevation is going to look like this, elevation is going to look like that. But then I was like, the Lord was like, no, like elevation is not that. Like I'm going to give you my own definition of what like elevation is. And so I was like, okay, God, that is not what people preach on the internet. You know, like that is not what it was. And I say like the other thing too, and the Lord like revealed this to me. He was like, as you are waiting it out, it seems as if things are so cloudy, right? That was one of the things with me. I feel like I was just so, like everything was dark. Nothing made sense. But he allowed for me to see, like as he was taking the children from captivity to the wilderness, is that it was pillars of fire. And it was a cloud that was leading them along the way. And that fire and that cloud represents the Shekinah glory of God. And so it was like, as you are going through this wilderness season, as you are being stretched, you're waiting it out. It seems foggy, but just know that the Shekinah glory, that the glory of God is leading you. So you're not really confused. The Lord is like giving you as much light as you possibly need, so that way you can get to the next step and not feel overwhelmed. But as I mentioned before, it's all about waiting it out, going into a deep surrender, releasing how you feel like it needs to be. And I also did like journaling. That was one of the things that I did, was like just journal a lot of the emotions that I had while being on this process, and not feeling like I need to keep things bottled within me. Because I get to that space where it's like, oh, I'm just going to be like God's strongest soldier in his army, you know? And so I'm like, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to just keep like treading on. But I just think about that, like, you know, as God was taking, even like Abraham, as he was taking him from one place to another place, I'm pretty sure like Abraham was like, oh Lord, you know, like when he got to Egypt, he started lying, and I'm pretty sure he was nervous, he was overwhelmed. And so it's not trying to be like the Lord's strongest soldier. Just like be regular.
And honestly, one thing I even learned from my season, everything you said is literally on point. Like one thing I learned from my season is like being the Lord's strongest soldier. Jesus, my lips. Soldier is literally being able to be broken and weak before him. Because one of the big things that we actually don't talk about when you talk about that surrender, it's a deep dependence. Like you said, what he built with the children of Israel, with you know that pillar of cloud and that pillar of fire, was a deep dependence on him. If not, what you're doing, you go right back to Egypt because you think you know how to figure things out. And I think honestly, that's what keeps people from actually walking it out with God. It's just like, you need to depend on him. I'll give a perfect example. I had, you know, an event that I want to put out and stuff like that. And like, I was like, Lord, I don't know, like, do I do this? Do I do this? And he was like, can you stop trying to figure out how everything is going to look like? He was like, dependence is like step by step. And that's why even sometimes, like when I came on this live and I was like, whoa, like what he had me teach in Bible study, we're technically talking about today, like the Lord will end up connecting everything. But what he only requires from you is a deep dependence on him. Because if not, you're gonna run rampant, just going in your own way, doing things in your own strength, and in a way that unfortunately might lead to your destruction. Right? It's gonna burn you out. It's like, what can I do? And that's one thing, like when I was like coming into September, I was really in the Lord in prayer, and I was like, Lord, like how's this gonna look like? And he was like, what's the last thing I told you to do? He's like, oh, the last two things I told you to do. And I was
like, okay,
yeah. I haven't done that yet. Right? And it was just like, it literally was like, if you take that first step, then okay, I can open your eyes to another thing. And then you go. And I literally talked about it in my video this week. Like, when I say God is so strategic, especially with someone like me who wants to plan, like, I had my whole life planned out. I was supposed to go to medical school, y'all. Okay. I was supposed to go to medical school. I had my whole life planned out. I was going to go become minister of health in Nigeria. Global health was going to be my thing. All of it. 4 times. Didn't work out. Applied to medical school 3 times. Didn't work out. And you know the funny thing I tell people, in hindsight, in my spirit, I knew it wasn't going to work out. And so most of the times when people say, oh, I don't know what to do, and I'm like, actually, yes, you do. God has already spoken to your spirit. Obviously, if you're a believer, right, you have the Holy Spirit. God has already spoken to your spirit, and you already know the outcome of it because you're going to feel it in your spirit first.
Yeah.
Because if that's going to manifest. And so for me, when it all happened, I was like, oh, God already told me. So you know what? Fine. We're not gonna figure that. Like, and look at me, like 2 years, like into like entrepreneurship. Like this was not in my dream. And so the whole point of this is like, sometimes we are afraid of being dependent on God because we honestly want to control everything. We want to control the when, the how, the why this is happening, that we forget that when we say God is in control, what does that mean? He is in control. We aren't. Right. And I love how you talked about like literally releasing your expectation of what elevation should look like, releasing your expectation of what your waiting period should look like, you know, releasing on how anything should even look like. Forget about how you see somebody else doing it. Let God give you instructions for how you are supposed to do your thing, you know. And one of the last things I'll say is, you know, I was studying Hannah. And when I was like, you know, Hannah poured out her soul. And the revelation the Lord gave me, oh, sorry, y'all, my laptop is about to fall. But anyway, just carry it. The revelation the Lord gave me about Hannah was like, she poured out her soul, and our souls, our mind, our will, and our emotions. So she poured out her mind. So all the thoughts that were in her head, she brought it before the Lord. She poured out her will. So her will of like, however, I know this is what I wanted. I wanted a son. I want children. But you know what? I'm going to give this to you. And she poured out her emotions. So all the things she was keeping in. And honestly, I take that with me. So even when I do feel anxious, even when I do feel like, oh my God, like this is not working, or like, you know, what's the next step or whatever, I'm always like, you know what, Lord, this is what I think is supposed to happen. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. Take it. And you let me know, right, what is supposed to happen. And I think honestly in this season, as you enter whatever your season is, whatever that looks like for you, it's a deep dependence on what God has called you to do, and a deep dependence on Him. But I am grateful. Any last thing you want to kind of add to the conversation? I know that I have taken a lot of your.
I was just like, I'm just literally in awe. Like, I'm just always in awe. Like, I'm just in awe. I would say, like, just to piggyback off of like what you're saying, is that once we come out of this space of just going into that next level, and when we think that we have like this idea of what it should look like, the Lord, He has showed me, He was like, everything is going to be changed up, much like how He had taken Abraham and sent him to a new geographical space, and how He had told Elisha to go to this space. I'm sending you. It's going to be a widow. She's going to be this and there. And it's like, to know that your purpose is still going to remain the same, but the assignment is going to change. And that's another thing too, is that as we're being stretched, the Lord is preparing a widow in another village that's going to feed us and that's going to take care of us. And so as He's stretching you, to just be mindful that things may not be the same when you go on the other side. You may have a whole new set of audience. You may, like, He's probably switching up your whole audience. He's probably telling you to go and to raise your prices, lower your prices, or whatever the case may be. Move to a whole different place, you know, move to a whole different app. Don't be on Instagram no more. Go to TikTok, go whatever. And so, as I said, to not be expecting for things to look the same, and to not expect for elevation to look the same for you, like how it will look for everyone else, and to be open to receive that, because the Lord may switch up everything. Like, and that's going to be another thing too, to prepare you for it. I feel like He's trying to prepare you for it. Like, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be better. and to just
Mm-hmm.
stay just mindful of that, because then sometimes I feel like we can get very like, God, what's going on now? I don't have the same audience. I don't have the same messaging anymore. Everything is different. And that's what the stretching is. It is going to allow for you to reach a whole new realm. You're going to have more underneath your belt. Just be mindful of that. That's the last thing I want to say, is that your assignments will change. Just be like, as you're being shifted, it's just going to change. But
Yes.
just be mindful and go into
Yes.
it with a mindset of optimism.
Hey, girl.
Yeah.
It happened to me, and I'm nodding like, because your girl went from sprinkling God to now
Right.
being like, if you don't like God, then maybe this is not your page. Sorry. And even in my life, again,
Yeah.
y'all, I could talk so much about testimony and whatnot and all that stuff, but whew, y'all, I hope this live blessed you. Please give Andra a follow because she is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and revelation. And I'm just like, I'm honored, honestly, to learn from you. Like when you talked about like sometimes God puts people in your life for you to learn from them. And for me,
I would
that's
cry.
what you represent, right? You represent somebody that I can learn from because, like I said, what you did in that season when God was stretching me to start coming out was exactly what I needed. And being able to see you, right, show up in that way gave me the permission to show up in that way as well. And that's honestly that's just what God does. It's like He stretches us so that we can be representations for other people. And so if you're still scared of your stretching, you're denying someone from seeing something in someone of who they can be and a representation of what's possible for them, something that's prophetic for them. And so we should never honestly deny other people. And I think that's the thing.
I
Last
know.
thing I'll say, y'all, we could be on this forever, is is we honestly always approach things, even business, from a selfish standpoint. It's a me mentality. And I understand that's the kind of world we live in. What's in it for me? What do I need to do? But how about we say, okay, fine, I'm an answer to someone's prayer out there. What I'm stepping out to do, I am an answer to someone's prayer, right? And literally yesterday, taught on this on Bible study, when the children of Israel, when they groaned in Egypt and God came down, He literally said, I have come down to deliver them. Then He said in verse 10 of Exodus, I believe it's
Come
4,
on. Come
now
on.
you go
Come on.
to Pharaoh. God said, I have come down. And then He told Moses, now you go. Now imagine what your waiting period is supposed to be. Your waiting period is not just for you to come up on the other side and be like, hey, 6 figures. Da, 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 da. It's like, okay, Lord, how am I supposed to be serving other people? Right? God is using you to deliver other people. And I know we like to use the word deliver, and it probably sounds fancy and far-fetched and a huge thing, but us showing up live today has probably delivered somebody from something. When Andra, when she showed up live and I showed up on her live, and I was like, oh my God, that it delivered me from the mentality of like, I've never seen someone do this. But her bravery to go hand in hand with God and show up live allowed me to then say, okay, God, if Andra can do it, I can do it too. So she delivered me from the mentality of, oh, no one has done this before, or I can't do it. It's like, no, there's actually people out there that need what it is that God has called me to do, because hey, see, somebody's doing it right there. And so I just want to encourage you to shift the perspective on, oh, I'm going to make 6 figures, or I'm going to do this. It's like, no, like, yes, even if you are going to make 6 figures, even if you are going to reach abundance, even if you are going to get all these things, it's because God is positioning you to be a deliverer to other people. And we need to start seeing ourselves as servants, right? I know, like, it's a servant leader. Yeah, you are a leader, but you're also a servant. You have to serve your people, and you serve them first before you try to go start selling to them. That's a story for another day. But Andrea, where can we, I mean, not really where can we find you? This is not necessarily a podcast. Look at me trying to interview
I'm over
y'all,
here just
do
in
a whole
this like in a
podcast thing.
zone.
But
I'm like,
um,
yes. I'm like trying not to cry at the same time, but I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so emotional right now. But yeah, so
no, but this is so good. But where can we find you? What do
yes.
you have for us that's coming up that we gotta join? Please, y'all, support. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing these live collaborations just for me. It's for me to introduce people to women of God that I have found that helped me in this walk beyond, right, where I was. And so I'm so excited for every interview, but I also want it to be an opportunity for you guys not to only get to know these women, but to also follow them and glean from them and get value from
So
them. So
you
Andrea,
can
let us
find me
know.
at Andra.Williams. All of my social accounts is connected to Andra Williams. I have a workshop coming up. It's called Limitless Sales. It's really for Christian entrepreneurs to step into just the abundance, the inexhaustible amount of ideas and resources that God has placed within you to generate and to fund your business. And so it's like limitless amount of ideas that the Lord has placed within you to make money and to impact your audience. And so you can find that link in the bio. We having a pre-sale right now, so the tickets are $97. So yeah, I'm excited about it. And I thank you for just having me on. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I love it so much.
Yes. Yes. I know. Again, like I said, I am blessed that you said yes. I am blessed for your flexibility. Honestly, I'm honestly very blessed by your life, right? Because seeing you, and I don't know if Kaya is still on here, but I actually found her because she tagged you. And I'm interviewing Kaya in 3 weeks. And so again, at the end of the day, like, this is not just even a collaboration for me, but it's also to bring in the people that I met on this walk as I was like in this waiting season with the Lord, or what I like to call, right, the reset with the Lord, where the Lord was literally resetting everything, right? My mindset, my
Yeah,
heart,
like
my
I'm here.
spirit, all the
Hey
things.
girl.
Yes, Kai is still on. Okay. Yes, hey girl, I'm so excited for our interview, y'all. It's in 2 weeks, same time every Friday. So if you did not know, I'm doing this Reset Live series this month of September, and I'm interviewing amazing women of God all in this space. This is not just for people who are in entrepreneurship, but it's because we're all business owners. We're going to add that flair to it as well. But trust me, come with a product, with a service, whether CEO, whatever it is that you identify as in terms of the entrepreneurship space. Please join. You can see it pinned in my bio. Join us every Friday this month at 3 p.m. EST. Love you too, Kaya. All right, girl, I'm going to let you go. I'm, again, bless you. Thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I'm
Yes.
excited for what we'll do in
Yeah,
the
I'm so
future,
excited. Thank
whatever
you
that
for
looks
having
like.
me on. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Yes. Bye, everyone.